Joining us now for his weekly conversation, it is Kurt Helin from NBC Sports and ProBasketballTalk.com. Kurt, we finally settled in on a permanent friend. Let me introduce you to Tim Lacombe, longtime BYU and Utah assistant coach, and loves music as much as you do.
I'm excited to meet you. And by the way, I'm just excited to talk to him about whether he's willing to coach the Trailblazers for $7.25 an hour.
I've been considering it. This is a pretty good gig, though, Kurt. I'm not going to lie. This is a good one. So I'm going to let somebody else go coach that team.
That might be the wise move.
Yeah.
And you have to pay for everybody's T-shirts, too. There's not a budget for that.
Exactly. No T-shirts. And by the way, if you're staying in the hotel room past checkout, you're also paying for that. So.
Oh, man. What a mess that's not good PR when you're a new owner and you're trying to win over a fan base and everybody finds out you're doing everything on the cheap.
Yeah, I look, apparently this happened in Carolina as well with the NHL team. And he's right about this. And they've got a nice team there. If they start winning, this all goes away.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you win, the fan base won't care. So, but it also is not a good look. It's, as coach will happily tell you, basketball is a community, man. Everybody talks to everybody. And so it becomes harder to get, hey, maybe I don't want to be the masseuse for that team if I have another option.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, for sure.
Hours get shut down, man.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to get to. First off, let's, as the Jazz actually won a coin toss, so they will be holding on to their draft pick. Even if the worst happens and 4 teams leapfrog them, the worst they could go is fall to number 8. So where are your thoughts that even if the worst happens, that they can get a really good player at 8?
They can get a really good player at 8. Look, the talking to scouts and stuff, most of them think there's kind of a tier at 9. Like there's about 8, and it depends really on what you think of Nate Ament, and he's kind of 9. But there's 8 players that, as one guy put it to me, there's the top guys who are, the AJs who are going to be good, Boozer, they're going to be very good in this league, but there's potential all-stars down to about 8, depending on, who you like where in that group of point guards. It's kind of fallen from 5 to 8, but all of those guys really have potential. So if you're in the top 8, you're going to get somebody good. And we'll see who that ends up being and how it fits in, but you're going to get somebody with potential one way or another.
You mentioned those point guards. I'm just curious because there's 3 really good ones there, and they're all so different. But out of Wagler, Flemings, and Acuff, who do you like?
Can I throw in Brown, by the way?
Yeah, let's throw Brown in too.
I saw him at Nike Hoop Summit a year ago and thought his game is better suited for the NBA than maybe college, where when he gets in the spacing, his pace and speed is in the right setting, can be really good. I like Flemings a lot of that group, probably. I know how dynamic Acuff is. Like, it's fun to watch. Again, guy saw at Hoop Summit. He is fun to watch, but I just have concerns about a guy who's probably 6'6" when they measure him at the combine, is not a good defender already. And there's a book on undersized point guards who don't defend. And you can be Jalen Brunson, but that's more the exception to the rule than the rules. So I'm just more concerned there. That said, I think he's going to be a good pro, but I like Flemings and Wagler better personally. I'd be curious what you guys think.
We talked about, I think just Flemings to me is a guy who in some ways reminds me of Keontae a little bit. He played for Sampson, so he's a little tighter coming out of college. There's a big difference between Scott Drew and Kelvin Sampson in terms of what's required. And so I feel like, when you look at his assist to turnovers in college, it's 5.2 to 1.8. I mean, that's ridiculous. Yeah. And so he plays with the ball on a string. I like his explosiveness. But there's something about the size of Wagler I like a lot too. And I thought he showed really well in the tournament.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I know scouts tend not to put too much into the tournament as opposed to those of us who don't get to watch as much college basketball. Right. Like, suddenly we're like, oh, you should totally. But Wagler really stood out to me as somebody who I hadn't seen before. Who I was like, wow, he does really have a shooting potential. And like you said, the size really helps.
So we played the audio from Jaden McDaniels essentially calling out every Denver Nugget for being a bad defender. The thing is, he's actually kind of right. as much as everybody in Denver wants to say that's bulletin board material, yeah, you can be mad about it all you want, but can you really flip the switch and become a good defender overnight? So, Jaden Daniels put it out there, which probably wasn't the smartest move, but was he wrong?
Yeah, I'm sure Chris Finch would like to have a couple of words just about, I don't think he's totally wrong in this sense, especially that they wore them down, right? Like if you watch the fourth quarter and that whole game, really, they kind of made Murray and Jokic, they went at them enough to wear them down because there are good defenders on that team. Like he threw Aaron Gordon in there. Man.
Yeah.
Aaron Gordon can defend for me any day of the week. Like he's fine. They've got Christian Brown's a solid defender. Like they've got some defenders, but it's a little like the Knicks in the sense that their offense kind of has to overcome some defensive flaws just built into their personnel. So I don't think he's totally wrong, but dude was also 7 of 15 in that game. He wasn't exactly lighting it up. He had 14 points on 15 shots. So I'd be a little careful lighting a fire under them. And he's going to get an impressive welcome when the series returns to Denver.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a few kids pop off at inopportune times through the years. It's not the best thing. One of the best was we went to St. Mary's, and Randy Bennett's a pretty good coach. They're pretty good there. Yeah. But we had a freshman go in and say, tweet out, "This is literally a high school gym."
Oh, geez. Tell me it was JT.
No, I won't go into who because. Yeah. But anyway, they were pretty much ready for us, and that gym, regardless how big or small it was a bad place for us that night. Quick question on Wembanyama and his defensive player of the year. How many of these is he going to win in a row now, you think? He was unanimous.
Yeah, he had my vote. It's funny. I was talking with one of the betting experts at NBC over something else, and we're like, what's the under-over? Is it like 7? 7.5? Like, how many is he going to win? I mean, he's 22. And the only thing that would have kept him from winning this year was not reaching the games limit. And that might be the case going forward because, look, as great as Chet Holmgren is, as great as Rudy Gobert or Oscar Thompson or whoever you want to name as the next great defender is, nobody just changes the geometry of the game in the court like he does. I mean, I mentioned it in my story. How many times a game does somebody beat their man off the dribble, get into the paint and go, yeah, no.
Yeah.
just dribble out, pass out, do whatever. Like they're like, no, I'm not even. No, I would try this against anybody else, but no.
Next year is Steve Kerr the head coach of the Golden State Warriors?
No. It looks, what I'd heard and very much is that he's reached the point where he's kind of ready to move on. This year, he thought they could make a push, and injuries were a part of this, man. But they don't get Jimmy Butler back now till middle of next season. Steph Curry's closer to 40 than 30. Draymond's closer to 40 than 30. So whatever bold moves they might choose to make in the offseason, that's still an older core. And I just don't know if I just don't think he wants to go through that again. Maybe he has a change of heart. We'll see where he is. I think he loves coaching. I still think he wants to be around basketball. I wouldn't be shocked if he's the Jerry West front office consultant for some team pretty quickly, but I don't know that he wants to, he has such good memories and such good experiences with this. I think he's just ready to step away before riding off into the sunset, essentially, because this, the Warriors are going to ride the Curry thing out as long as they should. I mean, he still held the building. He's Steph Curry, but their contending days are over, and they kind of know that internally.
Do you buy the Todd Golden rumors?
That's an interesting one. I saw that. I know that. Here's why I would buy it. Apparently, he's got real connections to the LeCobe family, and if you know the owner, that helps.
Yeah,
but it helps a lot. But we'll see. There's genuinely, and I know that they talked about this internally. There's genuine concern about. I mean, again, it's Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler. You're going to bring in a college coach. I don't care how good a college coach. That is going to be a big ask to come in and command that room in the way you kind of would have to. So I'm not sure if they go there, but they might have a conversation. And the next coach, whoever that is, rides out this, and you've got to get a developmental coach in there because whatever is next is going to involve a bunch of player development. Like that has got to be the core of whatever comes next there.
Yeah, the Golden State yard looks a little like a chop shop right now going forward, right?
Yeah.
Like pieces and parts.
Yeah,
And that's never a
exactly.
good place to get to. Anything that has surprised you so far that you've seen in the playoff games that we've seen in the last couple nights?
Not wildly. I thought that Atlanta played more like I expected them to in game one. In game two last night. I thought that their athleticism and pressure could give the Knicks trouble, and it eventually did. I guess the one team I'm a little disappointed in is I thought Toronto. I thought maybe they could figure it out. I thought they'd maybe pull it together and make this more of a series. But man, if they can't force turnovers and get out in transition, that half court offense. I mean, Brandon Ingram was 3 of 15. They're not, and that's a look. There's big guys. Evan Mobley is a really elite defender, and they've got big guys in the paint. But that offense looks messy in the half court, and I don't know that James Harden does a lot of things, but he doesn't cough the ball up that much, man. Like they're just not going to get the kind of turnovers and breakaways that they want.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 350 plus undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
So Billy Donovan flirted with the college game and decided to stay put in Chicago, and then they blew out, the upper management of that team to essentially felt like to keep him, and then ultimately he's like, yeah, no, I'm still going to shut it down. How much of a surprise is that there in Chicago?
It didn't seem as big a surprise to people around the Bulls as it did. Like I was with you, man. They shut, look, they essentially said whoever we're hiring as a GM has to fit around the coach. But I know he was angling for, the job next to you, Scotty, that coach got. I thought.
He interviewed.
Definitely targeting.
Kind of blew the interview. I was really surprised by that, but that's all right.
But it sounds like, and I didn't have any connections with this directly, but it sounds a lot like he stepped back from the situation. And this is why he was flirting with North Carolina, is he realized, they're going to bring in a new GM. This is a team on the treadmill. They don't want to tank. So they're like, how do you get out of that middle that they're kind of stuck in the NBA? It can be really challenging. You need a couple of breaks. You need to find somebody to either get a free agent or find somebody who can lift you out of that. And I don't think he saw it coming. And I think he's just ready for something new. And especially with a new, head of basketball operations and GM coming in, like, let them pick their coach, let them set this up. And he won't be short of options. He's going to be able to go college or pro. Like, I don't know what other, I don't think there's any other major college jobs expected to open up soon, but like he'll have his choice of jobs if something comes up.
We got, I was just looking at a players poll on who they thought would win the championship this year. And obviously Oklahoma City's the favorite, I think in everybody's minds, players, fans, everybody. But how real are the Spurs as a deterrence to that this year?
Yeah. I have a hotel room booked in Oklahoma City already for the first 2 days.
Yeah. That's what I want to hear.
Is it the haunted one?
No. There's a Marriott property that is literally 50 yards from the entrance to the building, and I'm like very happy with that arrangement.
Smart. Got to get those points.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you get a rollaway in there if I come down?
There you go.
Do the old rollaway game.
You're welcome to come
All right,
on
Kurt.
down.
Maybe we'll get to know each other better.
There's a couple of places out there that serve beer I found too. So
sweet.
Well, they're already better than Utah. Wow.
Got to have a card for that.
No, I will tell you I'm a believer that there is something to be said for playoff basketball, like ordering off a different menu than the regular season in some ways because of the matchups and the way you're able to dive down. And I think there's something to the experience, but I also have a story up at NBC Sports you can find with a Google search about them believing that's not the case for them for two reasons. One is Victor Wembanyama's pretty good and kind of breaks rules. But the other one is their defense is so good. They believe that can carry them through some stretches of offensive struggles when they run up against, Denver in the next round or whomever, or Minnesota, whatever. But when they run into tough spots, they think the defense can carry them through and get them there. And I don't know that they're totally wrong because, man, Stephon Castle's not playing like a second-year player. Dylan Harper doesn't look anything like a rookie, man. That is a very deep, very talented, very well-coached team.
So I want to circle back a little bit on Minnesota. Do you think Denver's in trouble in this series?
Well, this was always I always thought it was a 6 or 7 game series anyway. This was a rivalry, and Minnesota is one of the few teams, like, they just have the size and physicality to match up with Denver. Like, they can. Rudy Gobert has been fantastic in the first 2 games on Jokic. Just as played as well as anyone could hope to against him. And it's never a one-man thing, but I think that they have, with Randall, with the guys they have, they just have the bulk and size to be physical. And so, yeah, I think that they have a real chance there to match up. And the other thing was in game 1, Anthony Edwards looked hampered by his knee, bothered by it. Whatever happened, or, whatever treatment he got, or just time, or whatever it was, he looked like his explosive self in game 2. And that's tough to deal with. that guy is so good when he's going like that.
We had Ryan Smith on yesterday, and he went on Pat McAfee and he talked about the tanking thing and essentially said, look, the way the league is set up now, it makes it very hard to acquire high-level talent via trades. Certainly free agency isn't where it was because the league has kind of built a system where they want to keep guys with their teams and incentivize guys to stay put. And so you're like, okay, so where is the path to find a way to get stars in this league to elevate your squad? Well, it comes now via the draft. That's the easiest way to acquire talent. And in doing so, that brings in tanking as an incentive to go down that path. And he said, look, we can flatten odds and we can do all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, if that's still the path that teams feel like is the easiest way to try to acquire talent, teams are going to still do that. Now, I know that Adam Silver wants to find a way to, discourage tanking, but is flattening odds going to do it, or just a long, hard look at the current system? And is that the better way to do it? Because it seems like that's just a Band-Aid. There actually is a bigger root to the problem here that needs to be addressed. Yeah.
Well, first off, flattening the odds to me just means you give a team like Utah, but other teams that have tried to get talent through the draft, you just make it harder.
Yeah.
You literally just make it harder to get the guys they need. And so I don't think, and I think this is, and Adam's kind of admitted this, ultimately, I don't think you can completely do away with tanking because of the nature of basketball. If you go forget Wemby, who's kind of a one-off freak, right? Freak of nature, right?
Absolutely.
If you get Cade Cunningham or Anthony Edwards or a bunch of these other recent Cooper Flagg last year, you get these number 1 picks, you change the trajectory of your franchise completely on the court. And by the way, you make a lot more money off the court, right? All of a sudden, your franchise is worth a lot more money. And as long as one great player can change things like that, I don't know how you change the system. I'm personally of the belief that you just do away with the lottery altogether. They're not going to do that, but I would go back to, we'll call it the NFL system. You're the worst, you get the first pick, man, because then you get the talent and theoretically you get out of that loop pretty quickly. I'd even be willing to say if you get the top pick, you can't be in the top 5 the next couple of years or whatever.
Agreed.
But I don't know I don't know that there's a solution. The funny thing is, what's going to happen. And I think we've talked about this, Scotty. Because of the lack of depth and lack at the top of the next draft class, whatever they do, there's not going to be as much tanking for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
There's no AJ at the top of this. There's no Demonte at the top of this draft. Where man, we got to go get that guy.
Yeah.
Like there's just not. So there's not going to be as much tanking, and it has nothing to do with whatever system is in place.
Yeah, Adam Silver's going to do his victory lap at the All-Star game next year.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we fixed it. We've completely fixed it.
I told you I'd fix it, and I totally did.
Hey, Kurt, I have a quick question because Scotty asked me this earlier, and I'd be curious to your answer. If AJ's in last year's draft, who goes number one?
Funny, I asked that of somebody else, Scott, once, when they said it would still be flagged. They said it would be Cooper 1, AJ 2.
Okay.
And that would have made that draft a little more tanky, though. Like, you didn't.
Yeah,
Oh
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Absolutely. But they, I don't know, they trusted Flag a little more. They graded. I would put it, he graded Flag a little higher than he's got AJ.
Well, Kurt, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks for hanging out, and look forward to doing it again next week.
I look forward to it, man.
There he is, Kurt Helin, NBC Sports, ProBasketballTalk.com.